Hey guys, it's Cam here. Welcome back to the Build Room. In this week's episode, we are back working on Doofa now again, our 1977 RA28 Celica. So far, we've got it stripped down into bare metal. We've fixed all of the rust in the rear end. And this week, it is part one of trying to get this bad boy roadworthy. So stick around and check it out. All right, so kicking off today, we have got a giant list here of things that I know we need to look into. Some of them are just checks, but obviously if those checks don't come out well, we're gonna have to do some replacements of parts. Now, my strategy for this is to start at the bottom and work our way up. Mainly so I get the really frustrating work out of the way first and can then work on some of the stuff that really does make a visual difference and gets you a bit motivated. So, where are we at the moment? We have got the thing up in the air. I've pulled the wheels off. The wheels, funnily enough, I think I had them back to front. They're actually different offsets. I didn't realize. So we had a lot of poke on the front here and the backs were kind of really quite sunk in. So flipping that around, I think it gets us like an extra 12 mil maybe on the rear and sucks those front ones into where they are not gonna foul on the guards, which is good. I think they're probably gonna be really suited to Violet Crumbles. RA28s can fit a bit more meat in the back, so probably still a bit light on in the back, but pretty stoked that they're offset overall and they're genuine Enki HR385, so yeah, also stoked on that too. Now you can see here, we have an exhaust on the floor. That is the exhaust from Violet Crumbles. I have gone through and tidied it up a little bit and sprayed some of the bits that weren't coated in the protective coating that a normal mild steel exhaust has on it. Now this exhaust is a little bit smaller diameter than the one that's on the back half of Doofa at the moment, but I know this thing was running an 18RG with twin carbs and things like that, so it's probably a bit of overkill for an 18RC anyway, so hopefully this will fit in. And this will answer the question of, will an exhaust that is meant to fit an RA23 fit on an RA28. So the plan is, we're gonna start at the back. I've been under here and just sprayed the entire thing with not only fly spray, because there was a family of redbacks living under here, which wasn't great, and some degreaser to clean it all up. We are going to have to drop the diff down, probably as far as we can get it, and that'll allow me to do two things. So I can remove the shocks, drop it right down, take the springs out, and I should be able to lift the exhaust out to the side. Obviously I'll have to twist it because I won't be able to take it past the jack stands, but yeah, we should hopefully get the exhaust out and then we'll get the other one in. Before I put the other one in, I will go through and do sound deadener all on the underside here and just neaten that up, because the front half is looking pretty good because we coated that through the first Doofa Now series, but the rear hasn't been done. And when you put this thing on a hoist to get it registered, I think we're gonna, attract unwanted attention with that one. I might give a rattle can black to the fuel tank because you can see it from the back of the car. Now, I'm not gonna replace the springs and shocks. They seem to be working fine. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it for this one. We are just trying to get this thing licensed so that I can drive it to Toyotas in the park. So yes, springs and shocks will stay, no leaks, they seem to be working. We've got to check all these bushes. Now, I can't really see too well in this light, but it actually looks like there might be nolethane in them. So we'll double check on that. And if there is nolethane and it's good, we will again leave this. I do have a full Super Pro set here, but I intend to change this diff out. I've got a line on an AE86 diff, which has rear discs and an LSD. So I'd much rather swap that in here. And at that point, I will redo all the bushings and everything in here. I also don't really want to unbolt this thing fully and get it out from under the car, because then I've got to bleed the brakes. And currently the front and rear brakes are working fine. So I'd prefer to just get it over on the stock brakes and then deal with the whole lot later. So yeah, diff down, exhaust out. The current one is actually a two-piece. There's a flange just in front of the diff. So I can get that out with really no problems at all and also make it a bit easier to store. Coat the bottom and then we will talk about reassembly and what's going to be required. so the diff is down as low as it can go. Basically disconnected everything, including the handbrake lines. They're important because they will tug. We are at the lowest point because basically any further and that brake line there is going to be taut, and we run the risk of cracking it or ripping it. So this is how much room I've got to work with, and I'm not starting to paint yet because, as you guys saw, we have a bit of a problem. So yeah, that is a pretty bad rust hole. That will have been caused by water leaking in past the hatch seal, and this is just the lowest point in the boot basically. So anything that runs down the driver's side is going to end up in here, and that sort of rust is what you see. It doesn't help to have a penetration right in the middle of it. And if you look closely there, you can see there's a yellow line outlining that. So obviously someone has seen this rust before, marked it out as something that needed repair, and then moved on with their lives. The problem here is, in order to fix this, what I need to do is remove this fuel line and block it up so we don't leak fuel everywhere. And then I need to cut that section out, fabricate a plate, weld it in, drill a new hole, run the fuel line through it, and seal it all up nice and tight. The problem with doing that is our fuel tank, and there is no way I'm going to put a welding torch up there with that there. So that puts us in the unfortunate position of needing to drop the tank in order to fix that properly. And if we drop this tank, I'll show you the inside of the hatch where the fuel system sits. As you can see, it's a pretty complicated setup, and it is bespoke to the RA28. So if I damage any of that, or if it's just perished due to age and we have to replace stuff, it ain't happening in time for the registration inspection. And to be honest, even just half-assing this by trying to fabricate a metal plate and rivet it in or something is going to be really difficult too. Look, if you don't like seeing dodgy things done to RA28s, I suggest you look away now, because shit's about to get real. We're going to dodgily fix this and then cover it up with as much underbody deadener as we can so it can't be seen. Now, I know that's not the right thing to do, but we're only going to be driving it a couple of times while it looks like this, so we're just going to have to send it and hope that they don't look too closely come inspection time. So yeah, for all you avid first gen fans out there, forgive me for what I am about to do. Alright, so still a bit squishy, so while that continues to harden up, let's start on the rest of the underside. All right, so the back end's drying. We need to pull this half exhaust so we can get the new one in. And I've noticed we also need to replace the tail shaft. So this center bearing, the rubber in it is starting to crack. If they pick that up, that'll be a fail. So we're actually gonna pilfer the one from Violet Crumbles and replace that whole section. While I'm under here, I've also got to change out the clutch slave because there is something wrong with the hydraulic system for the clutch here. So I'm gonna start with the slave because it's the easiest to do. Then we can button up the rear end, and then hopefully that does us for the underside. All right, so tail shaft in, exhaust in. The entire of the underside has been painted, including the diff. The Dulux reconditioning fixes everything. Got the springs and struts back in. They're both, I think, KYB stuff, so not bad suspension to have. Hard to get nowadays. The Nolethane is all good throughout the rear. The exhaust fitted up absolutely perfectly, including the offset in the exhaust cutout. And now we just have to deal with wheels. So obviously, 15-inch Ankies with giant rally tyres will not be roadworthy. So let's see what we got in the spare parts pile. That's right, Mark II Super Rims. All right, so mixed success. We've had to go out and buy new nuts, and basically these are a shanked 12 by 1.5 and a washer at the bottom. The problem is these nuts are too long. So what I've had to do is put 2 washers on to keep them flat, and unfortunately that means I can only do one side. So that means we're not going to be able to drive this car today, but we can at least get it started and see what it sounds like with the new exhaust. All right, so I did a recording before with the half pipe. Let's hear that now. Woo! That's a spicy meatball. And this is what it sounds like with the new exhaust. That's pretty quiet. Let's hear it from the back. All right, so we are 100% out of time. Mixed feelings about today. Super happy that the exhaust off Violet Crumbles fit up with no problem. I thought for sure once we got around that rear tank area, there was going to be an alignment issue. I mean, even the tailpipe came right out in the middle of the exhaust cutout, which is awesome. And I did have to go back, I didn't show you guys, but I had to go back and change the gasket out. The one that I had with the metal rings in it didn't seal, and I have an experience with them that they don't seal quite often, so I got one of the ones without the ring, slathered it in exhaust sealant and threw it back in, and it looks pretty good. We also cannibalized the tail shaft out of Violet Crumbles, and we may have to put a few more VC parts on this in the next episode because we are up against it in terms of the time frame. So while I was changing the wheels, I did notice that both of the outer tie rod ends are actually cracking, so I'm gonna have to do the tie rod ends. And if you've done tie rod ends and ball joints yourselves, you'll know that that never goes to plan. So that's probably my biggest concern next up. But the bottom of the car looks good, the diff looks good, the Supra wheels fit. I wasn't sure whether they were gonna sit on that hub properly, but they're all fine. The tires are questionable. I may get pinged for them when I go for rego, but we will see. I'll give them a nice armor all on the outside beforehand. And the clutch seemed to bleed up okay and hasn't shown any signs of deflating yet, touch wood, but we'll know for sure over the next couple of days whether that's gonna actually stick or not. So yeah, didn't get as much as I wanted to do today. We didn't touch the engine bay really, but we will get to that in the next episode. Apart from the tie rod ends, the main concern for next week is the heater core. That heater core, if it leaks, I don't think I have a spare, and that's gonna mean I need to send that one away to get rebuilt. That's gonna take quite some time, and there is no way we're gonna be able to go for rego without a mechanism to defrost the windscreens. So we'll solve that mystery for next week. Stick around for that one. And while we're here, just a reminder that we did the t-shirt giveaway. If you haven't yet, go back, watch the last episode, the names are there, and if you were one of them, make sure you email me to claim your prize. And that brings us to the usual stuff of linking to the full Violet Crumbles series here if you want some real detailed stuff, and the Doofa Now series down here if you need a refresher. Other than that, I just want to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Build Room. Bye for now.